Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and I'm really excited about today's topic.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here to dig into this with you.
Yeah, so if you've ever spent like an hour just endlessly scrolling through your feed, you've probably noticed how incredibly fast the internet can completely flip its script.
Oh, absolutely. It's wild.
Right, like on a culture, a trend, or even just a really basic daily habit. 1 minute, something is totally ignored or, maybe even heavily mocked.
And then literally the next minute,
Exactly. The literal next minute, it's the absolute pinnacle of cool.
it's that digital whiplash.
Yes, that wild digital
Uh,
whiplash. And today, we're looking at a topic that just perfectly captures that. Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack a bizarre, funny, and honestly surprisingly profound TikTok trend.
The one where non-Chinese users are jokingly claiming to be, quote, turning Chinese.
That's the one.
It's truly a fascinating phenomenon to watch unfold in real time.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for you listening, just so you know our sources to guide our discussion today, we're relying exclusively on this really fantastic January 2026 NBC News article.
Right, by the culture and trends reporter Angela Yang.
Yes, Angela Yang.
Yeah.
She dug deep into this trend, interviewing the creators driving it and the people reacting to it across the internet.
And what you'll find as we explore her reporting is that what starts as an entirely absurd meme,
And it is very absurd.
highly absurd, but it's actually a massive sociological data point. It offers a very clear window into shifting geopolitics, generational attitudes, and just the increasingly complex ways we interact with one another in the digital age.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the epicenter of this whole moment seems to trace back to a 23-year-old creator named Sherry Zhu,
Yeah, her video completely blew up.
hitting 2.7 million views. And the premise is just wonderfully deadpan.
It really is.
She looks right into the camera and jokingly recruits people of non-Chinese descent. She tells the viewer, let me quote this. She says, "I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Okay, tomorrow you are turning Chinese."
And then she follows it up by saying, and I know that sounds intimidating, but there is no point in fighting it now, because you are the chosen one.
The chosen one. I love that.
The delivery is brilliant because it plays on that dramatic, almost cinematic trope of a secret destiny.
Right, like you've been selected.
Exactly. By telling the viewer they're the chosen one, she's taking these everyday, mundane lifestyle habits and elevating them to this elite, almost mystical status.
Just so smart.
It's a very clever, highly engaging way to frame cultural exchange for an audience that might otherwise just, scroll right past a standard educational video.
Yeah, and the habits she's talking about are so specific,
Right.
yet they're totally universally accessible once you actually know about them.
Complete.
Because of her video, there's just been this absolute frenzy of curiosity online. People are using hashtags like hashtag becoming Chinese and hashtag Chinese baddie.
Chinese baddie is a great one.
It really is. And under these hashtags, you see all these users showcasing themselves, trying out Chinese-inspired lifestyle practices.
Like the hot water.
Yes, the hot water. Think about your own daily habits for a second. If you walk into a restaurant here in the U.S., what's the first thing they do?
They slam down a massive glass of ice water.
Exactly. Ice is everywhere. It's just the default. So the idea of voluntarily sipping plain hot water throughout the day completely baffles a lot of people in the West.
It goes against everything we're used to.
Right. Yet suddenly, users are recording themselves proudly drinking hot water.
And the list goes far beyond just hot water. The NBC piece highlights users making apple herbal tea from scratch.
Which is way different than just tossing a Lipton bag in a mug.
A massive departure from dropping a store-bought tea bag into a mug exactly, and they're having bone broth for breakfast.
For breakfast.
Imagine swapping your morning bowl of cereal or your standard avocado toast for a savory, nutrient-dense bowl of bone broth.
It sounds kind of amazing, actually.
They're also proudly wearing traditional house slippers around their apartments, treating it as this ultimate form of self-care. But what's crucial to understand here is that these aren't just random, quirky activities.
Right.
These are deeply rooted traditional wellness habits from China, part of a much broader philosophy of preventative health.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This becoming Chinese trend didn't just appear out of a vacuum.
No, it didn't.
It actually builds on a related meme that had been gaining traction over the previous few months. You started seeing all these people online claiming to be, quote, at a very Chinese time in my life.
Yes.
It started an inside joke among Chinese Americans and then rapidly spilled over to non-Chinese users. And the aesthetic is incredibly specific.
Oh, the moody posts.
The moody posts. People are making these reflective, moody videos, and they're setting them to a very particular piece of music. It's the 1983 song Yi Jian Mei by the singer Fei Yuqing.
Such a classic.
For those who haven't heard it, it's this soaring, dramatic, classic ballad that instantly sets a mood.
What's fascinating here is the origin of that specific phrase. According to the online database Know Your Meme, which the NBC article cites, saying "you met me at a very Chinese time in my life" is actually a layered parody.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
It's a direct riff on the iconic final line from the 1999 movie Fight Club.
Right, Club.
In that film, the unnamed protagonist turns to the character Marla Singer as buildings are literally exploding and collapsing around them, and he says, "You met me at a very strange time in my life."
And the internet just took that intense, dramatic, apocalyptic moment and simply swapped the word strange for Chinese.
Exactly. Know Your Meme describes the parody phrase as ultimately meaningless and purposefully absurd. It's basically internet daddyism.
Taking a dramatic Edward Norton line and using it to describe your sudden urge to drink hot water and wear slippers is honestly the peak of internet humor.
Truly.
And the article notes that this absurdism has completely crossed over into the mainstream. Like, even celebrities are jumping on the bandwagon.
Right, Jimmy O. Yang.
Yes, the Hong Kong-American comedian Jimmy O. Yang actually participated in the meme back in November. He posted a video where he's singing that exact 1983 song, Yu Jian Mei, while wearing this incredible Adidas jacket inspired by the Tang Dynasty for Chinese New Year.
Which is such a great visual.
It really is. Seeing major comedians participate in a trend about domestic wellness habits really proves it's hit a cultural nerve.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to ask why this is happening right now in early 2026.
Because it wasn't happening a few years ago.
Not at all. This cultural embrace represents a major departure from recent history. The NBC News article provides some striking context to quantify this shift. It references polling data released in October by the Chicago Council on Global Affairs.
And those numbers are wild.
The numbers are incredibly revealing regarding how the American public is viewing this relationship. The poll found that 53% of Americans now say they favor U.S. engagement and cooperation with China.
53%. Considering China is both a major trading partner and a massive strategic rival on the global stage, crossing that halfway mark feels incredibly significant.
It's a staggering change in public sentiment, especially when you look at the timeline. To give you a sense of how rapid this shift is, that 53% figure is up from just 40% in 2024.
Wow.
That's a 13-point jump in public sentiment in roughly 2 years.
Which is practically overnight in the world of geopolitical polling.
Exactly. It's huge.
I remember when the U.S. TikTok ban was making headlines constantly, but how did that political threat actually trigger this specific cultural exchange?
That's the ironic part.
Right. The NBC piece traces a lot of this newly found appreciation back to that very specific digital event. When that nationwide TikTok ban was looming in the United States, American users were panicking about losing their favorite platform.
They were looking for a backup.
Yes, so a massive wave of them flocked to a Chinese social media app called RedNote.
That migration is the catalyst for everything we're discussing. China operates on a completely separate internet ecosystem due to its national firewall.
The Great Firewall.
Right. Historically, there simply hasn't been a lot of direct peer-to-peer digital mingling between everyday American users and everyday Chinese users sharing the same platform.
We were just in different digital worlds.
Entirely. But RedNote, which is officially known as Yohongshu, is essentially China's equivalent to Instagram meets Pinterest.
Okay.
It's heavily focused on lifestyle, beauty, fashion, and e-commerce.
So suddenly you had all these Westerners navigating a platform entirely in a different language.
Yeah.
American users were utilizing translation tools to figure out how to post.
And it resulted in this genuinely joyful cultural exchange.
Yeah. They were interacting directly with their Chinese counterparts in the comment sections, trading tips, and realizing they had a lot of shared interests.
And when you combine that digital migration with a recent surge in travel content online.
Oh, there were travel vlogs.
Yes, specifically videos showing foreigners visiting China, walking the streets, trying the street food, and interacting with locals.
It just changes the whole perspective.
It put the country on the radar of so many more people in the West in a deeply humanizing way.
The impact of that humanizing content really cannot be overstated. The article features a quote from a Chinese-Italian TikTok user named Angela Shun Hu, who perfectly illustrates this historical shift.
She makes a great point.
She points out that for a very long time, Chinese culture was heavily stereotyped in the West. It was unfairly characterized as poor, rude, uneducated, smelly, or loud.
Those were the prevailing, deeply negative stereotypes that dominated media and casual conversation for decades.
But because of this direct digital exchange and these viral trends, that perception is finally flipping. Hugh says that people are seeing the culture for what it actually is, a culture with centuries of history, refinement, and wisdom.
And she specifically highlights how people are recognizing this wisdom when it comes to medicine and preventative health.
Things like drinking hot water or making herbal tea aren't just being dismissed as quirky foreign habits anymore.
No, they're being actively adopted as practical, centuries-old wellness wisdom that actually makes you feel better.
It's a remarkable rebranding of a culture, driven entirely by grassroots internet interactions rather than traditional media or government campaigns.
However, as with any rapid cultural shift, especially one dealing with deeply ingrained habits and identities, it isn't happening without friction.
So what does this all mean? For the people who actually grew up in this culture, we really need to pause and imagine the emotional whiplash this must cause for Chinese Americans.
It has to be dizzying.
For decades, they've faced intense xenophobia and xenophobia. And as the NBC article points out, this prejudice reached a horrific peak very recently.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, during the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, Chinese Americans were broadly blamed for COVID-19. They became the targets of racist attacks in the streets of their own cities.
It's awful.
They were bullied, marginalized, and made to feel alienated for the exact same cultural habits that a 23-year-old on TikTok is now saying make you a baddie.
It's a profound contradiction to live through. And looking at the NBC piece, their goal isn't to take a political stance on U.S.-China relations or litigate the origins of the pandemic.
No, not at all.
Rather, the reporting simply documents this very real, very documented whiplash that Chinese Americans are feeling right now. By conveying the lived reality of the xenophobia outlined in the source material, we can better understand the full, complex context of why a seemingly lighthearted meme is bringing up such strong, conflicting emotions.
The context of that pain is absolutely essential to understanding the community's reaction. It makes total sense that some Chinese Americans are expressing hurt and skepticism at this sudden switcheroo.
Completely understandable.
The article introduces us to 24-year-old Jennifer Lee, who articulates this tension perfectly. She describes having very mixed feelings about this whole becoming Chinese flurry of content taking over her social media feeds.
Lee's perspective provides a crucial critical balance to the conversation. She describes feeling entirely torn.
Right.
On one side, she admits she welcomes the appreciation. She looks at these videos and thinks, thank you for actually taking the time to learn and appreciate our culture.
But then there's the other side.
Exactly. She also possesses a deeply skeptical side regarding the motivations of the people making these videos.
Put yourself in her shoes for a moment. She's watching creators use a culture that they might have spent their entire lives making fun of, or at least ignoring.
And she questions if they're really learning anything.
She wonders if they're just jumping on a trending bandwagon to get their 15 seconds of internet fame. She worries that this is just another fleeting algorithmic fad, something that's going to vanish next month and won't actually lead to any lasting respect or understanding for Chinese culture.
She goes even further, making a very poignant observation about the nature of internet trends. She says she wouldn't even label this trend as cultural appropriation.
Really?
Yeah, instead, she says it's more about turning her culture into a meme so non-Chinese users can get something out of it for themselves.
Like views, likes, or brand deals.
Exactly. Her deepest fear is that it almost makes her community feel like the laughingstock again, just serving as raw aesthetic material for someone else's viral content.
To go from being actively bullied for bringing your cultural food to school or for your parents wearing house slippers to suddenly seeing those exact things become a trendy meme for people who never had to face that bullying. That has to be exhausting to navigate.
This raises an important question. Can a trend born out of absurd internet humor actually bridge a historical divide? Or does it merely paper over the cracks of past prejudice?
That is the big question.
The article contrasts Jennifer Lee's understandable skepticism with the much more optimistic viewpoints of the other women we mentioned earlier, Sherry Zhu and Angela Shan Hu.
Zhu, the creator who really kicked off the turning Chinese trend with her Chosen One video, she actually completely empathizes with Lee's sentiments.
Right, they share that background.
Zhu makes it clear she's experienced xenophobic bullying throughout her entire life, too. She intimately knows the pain of being marginalized, But her ultimate takeaway is quite different.
She sees a silver lining.
She firmly believes that creating more visibility around Chinese culture, even if it's done through deadpan humor and memes, can actually reduce misunderstanding over time. She doesn't think a meme magically erases the history of pain, but she sees this digital visibility as a definitive step forward.
Zhu also provides some really helpful context about the intent behind her videos. She explains that the humor she's sharing online with millions of strangers is the exact same humor she uses in private with her own friends.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she says that if her non-Chinese friends are wearing house slippers in her apartment, or if they're using chopsticks particularly well at dinner, she'll joke with them and say, "Wow, you're so Chinese. That's my Chinese buddy right there."
So for her, broadcasting this to the internet is simply an extension of real-life affection and camaraderie. It's her way of welcoming people in.
Angela Shanhu, the Chinese-Italian user we talked about earlier, shares a similarly optimistic perspective.
Yes.
She posted her own video explicitly welcoming non-Chinese people into the culture. She addresses the painful history of the pandemic head-on, but arrives at a very hopeful conclusion.
I thought her point was really interesting.
She notes that the people who were harboring deep hatred for Chinese people in 2020 aren't suddenly going to love the culture now just because bone broth is trending.
Right. Those specific people are likely still racist.
Exactly. But she firmly believes that the vast majority of other people on these platforms are actively using this moment to unlearn racism. As she powerfully puts it, there's no way forward if we keep holding everything back.
That's an incredibly powerful sentiment about the nature of progress. And Hugh makes a vital distinction that sits at the very core of this entire deep dive. She addresses the concept of appropriation head-on, a topic the internet argues about constantly.
It's a huge debate.
She argues that the people participating in this current TikTok trend are genuinely appreciating rather than appropriating her culture.
The line between appropriation and appreciation can seem blurry online, so how exactly does she define the difference in this context?
The key, according to Hu, comes down to acknowledgement and ownership. She says these users are appreciating the culture because they're actively applying these Chinese practices while openly, loudly acknowledging their Chinese origins.
That's the crucial difference.
They aren't taking the concept of drinking hot water or making bone broth for breakfast and trying to rename it, rebrand it as a new Western discovery, or claim they invented it. They aren't claiming ownership at all. They're explicitly giving credit to the culture it came from.
But using hashtags like #BecomingChinese or #ChineseBaddie, they're literally putting the origin of the practice front and center for everyone to see.
It's an open homage rather than a cultural theft. It's essentially the cultural equivalent of citing your sources.
Precisely. And that clear distinction is what allows someone like Hugh to view this trend not as a mockery, but as a genuine, albeit deeply goofy, form of cultural diplomacy.
Right, deeply goofy.
It's a way for people to engage with a foreign culture respectfully while still having fun with the aesthetic of the internet.
It's genuinely amazing how much depth there is to this story once you scratch the surface. What started as a joke about hot water and house slippers actually reflects a massive, measurable shift in geopolitical attitudes.
We're seeing a 13-point jump in Americans wanting cooperation with China.
We're witnessing the breakdown of centuries-old stereotypes through the power of travel vlogs and an unexpected migration to the Red Note app.
And we're seeing a really complex, sometimes painful, but ultimately hopeful moment of visibility for the Chinese-American community.
It serves as a striking reminder that cultural exchange in the 21st century rarely happens in formal boardrooms or through official government treaties.
It happens in the comment section of a cooking video.
Exactly. It happens through shared recipes, viral fashion aesthetics, translated e-commerce posts, and parody memes referencing 90s movies.
That's where the real bridge building occurs.
I want to leave you with Angela Shanhu's ultimate hope for all of this, because I think it perfectly encapsulates the best-case scenario for our hyper-connected digital world. She hopes that this trend, and others like it, helps move us toward a genuinely less racist world.
A great vision.
She envisions a world where culture doesn't need to be tightly gatekept or hidden away in order to be protected, but can simply be appreciated and adopted by anyone willing to learn.
And her greatest hope is that this leads to a future where the next generation can just exist.
Without ever feeling the need to shrink themselves, hide their heritage, or be embarrassed by their family's habits.
That's a beautiful, resonant vision for the future. As we wrap up today's exploration, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Please do.
Think about the specific wellness habits or daily routines you practice right now, the type of tea you drink in the afternoon, the way you arrange your home, the specific remedies you reach for when you feel a cold coming on.
We all have them.
How many of those practices actually originated from a culture entirely different from your own, and how did they ultimately make their way to you? It really makes you wonder, are internet trends just fleeting fads, or are they the actual first drafts of our shared global culture?
What a phenomenal question to think about the next time you're scrolling through your feed. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We loved unpacking this fascinating cultural moment with you, and we'll catch you next time.